Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Valor and today we'll be covering some Outlaw Rogue and I'll be showcasing you guys everything that's going on with Outlaw. So Outlaw right now, the best way to describe it in BFA is like this mix of a combat rogue and Outlaw. And based on your talents, you can really decide how you want to play. So in this video, I want to give you guys a little bit of a detailed, look at Outlaw. I don't want to give you too detailed of a look because it's beta. It's way early, so chances are things are going to change. But at least I want to give you guys the general gist of what the specialization is like. So there was a lot of changes to the specialization in particular. Combat potency now has the energy regen rate baked into it. A lot of people wondering if Outlaw really does have that energy regen. It still does, and now it's just clear and seen for everyone. Your offhand attacks have a 75% chance to generate 10 energy, which is actually pretty interesting. Makes me wonder if maybe running with daggers might be worth. Because daggers, like swords for example, and one-handers, have a weapon speed of 2.6. Daggers have 1.8. And Blizzard did change the math on weapons recently and how they function for your damage, so it's less weapon reliant. So maybe having a faster swinging weapon that doesn't change your damage much, maybe it will proc more combat potency. That's just a food for thought for anybody who plays Outlaw or combat back in the day. Mastery got changed as well. Instead of mastery increasing our percent chance for that weak extra mastery attack, now mastery increases the damage of Mangouche. Oh, it's called the Mangouche, and I think I'll call it Mangouche just for the sake of this video. I think Mangouche.
Main gauche, main gauche, main gauche, main gauche, main gauche, silent E.
It's French? I don't know how to say it properly. I could never do it. I'll just call it Mangouche or Mastery just for the sake of it. Mastery increases the damage of that Mastery hit, that offhand attack hit. So no longer do you increase its percent chance of how likely it is to hit, but this makes it more powerful, more potent, because the damage itself is actually kind of useful. And with Slice and Dice, this makes Slice and Dice a lot better of a playstyle if you want to play Slice without having to rely on the Pantheon Trinket. Because right now in Legion, Pantheon Trinket is the only thing that makes Slice and Dice in PvE that decent. Without it, you don't really nearly as much damage as Roll the Bones, even if you got like the best possible setup. Restless Blades includes a lot more abilities now. Into all of our abilities. They also changed it a little bit, so it reduces the cooldowns of Adrenaline Rush and all the sub abilities by half a second, but vanish by 1 second per comm point, or maybe all of it per comm point actually, because they had on tooltip on Wowhead a little bit different. It was half a second for all and 1 second for vanish, but now I guess we get to see. I'll vanish, 2-minute cooldown, I'll pistol shot. So vanish gets reduced, but what about some of the other abilities like grappling hook? 60 seconds. Okay, so it is 1 second per comm point for all of them. It is, so they made it a lot stronger. So when you roll the bones and get true bearing, that's 1 second. So you go back to that 2 second mark for your finishers, unless I get something wrong. Alright, some of the other passives for our other abilities. Adrenaline Rush is on GCD. Blade Flurry now has 2 charges and makes it a lot more bursty. I'll showcase this a little bit later. To explain this a little bit with when I get around to talents and showcase just a fun mechanic of acrobatic strikes. But yes, Blade Flurry has now charges, 2 charges, doesn't cost energy while you have it up. It is just a 15 energy tax off the bat, and then you deal 45% damage, so this makes it a lot more bursty rather than sustain, and I actually prefer it. Then we have Dispatch, which is our run through, just renamed to Dispatch. Feint is a 15-second cooldown. That's going to be a little bit rough for PvP, especially with that single target damage reduction, but we'll still get through it. We're rogues. Grapple and Hook is baseline, a minute cooldown. Super fun ability, glad that it's baseline. Pistol Shot is more or less the same. Its interaction with Sinister Strike is different though. Roll the Bones is still in the game, so if you aren't happy, Slice and Dice is a talent. And Sinister Strike, which replaces Saber Slash, because we can't all have sabers, we are not all pirates. Sinister Strike, vicious strike the enemy for decent amount of physical damage. Sinister Strike has a 35% chance to hit again, and making your next pistol shot costs double damage. So this one is a little bit weird. So normally Saber Slash, when it hits more than once, it generates 2 common points, but here it generated only 1 common point. So now the common point, you're losing a common point, but makes your pistol shot a lot stronger. So when you Sinister Strike, the opportunity procs, pistol shot costs 50 less energy and deals 100% more damage. So Outlaw, in its own basis, on that alone, and I guess with everything else, you generate less comm points. Your energy regen for the most part is fairly slow, at least right now with like no gear. But your abilities have a little bit more of a punch. So that's the difference. Outlaw in Legion is a spec that generates comm points like it's nothing. Lots of energy regen, cooldowns for days, cooldown reduction, but you hit like a wet noodle everywhere else. Old school Combat Rogue, at least from Warlords, was more about good sustained damage but feeling very energy starved at one point, but every ability you hits like a truck. So in PvP you could really just truck someone down into a red buff, into a killing spree, and then you just destroy them. So now you have a mix of both of these. You still have a few mechanics of, let's say, Sinister Strike, Pistol Shot synergy of your rotation, and you still have Roll the Bones, but you have more reliability on damage in terms of how you actually play from a Combat Rogue perspective. Very, very interesting how Blizzard ended up doing this. Now we can talk a bit about the talents. So what are the talents for our Outlaw Rogue? It's funny because in the talents you can really combine and make yourself more of a Roll the Bones kind of guy, or more of an old school Combat Rogue, and really feel like you're back in Warlords or MOP, or even in some cases Cataclysm, back to playing Combat Rogue some days. Let's talk about the talents. Level 15 Roam. We have Ghost Strike, Quick Draw, and Weapon Master. Weapon Master is the same, but it's really overshadowed because now Quick Draw becomes a lot more powerful. With your Pistol Shot, free procs, already dealing 100% more damage, 50% on top of that, and an extra comm point that you're not getting from Sinister Strike. If you got Quick Draw, and you got double hit of Sinister Strike, now your Pistol Shot generates 2 comm points. So in Legion, double hit, free Pistol Shot, 3 comm points, Quick Draw, double hit, free Pistol Shot, back to 3 comm points, and even more damage. Quick Draw is overshadowing Weapon Master. Ghost Strike on its own is also good. It deals baseline good damage actually, and 10% damage increase to already hard-hitting abilities with Outlaw. Combine that together with a Killing Spree, Adrenaline Rush, or any big cooldowns that hit hard, this actually makes for great utility. It has a 35-second cooldown, but this ability as well is on CDR. So as you spend comm points, you get it back faster and faster and faster. So this feels really good to play with. And 35-second cooldown basically comes down to maybe a 20 or even 15 based on comm points. Level 30 Rogue, Acrobatic Strikes. Awesome synergy with Blade Flurry. So I guess we could showcase it. So you all know how Acrobatic Strikes works, right? You can hit enemies from literally Africa. So that's really cool. Now I want to talk quick about Blade Flurry and how it synergizes. So Blade Flurry is more bursty, and with this burst and the range of Acrobatic Strikes, you can really just cleave everything in the world. You can see just the numbers coming from literally every direction. Now you have a bursty playstyle with Blade Flurry, which is why I think it's better. And you can reach a wider audience with it. It just costs 15 energy at first, and you can really go ham afterwards. So I really enjoy it. Acrobatic Strikes is great just to have it, but Blade Flurry, the new Blade Flurry, huge fan of what it ends up looking like. Then in levels 30, you also have Retractable Hook if you want your grapple hook to be a 30-second rather than 1 minute. And then you have Hit and Run. Level 45, Vigor, Deeper Strat, and Mark for Death. Mark for Death with the cooldown reduction feels really good to play for Outlaw, especially Roll the Bones build. Vigor feels also really good to play because of the energy regen. Deeper Strat doesn't feel quite nearly as good because you don't have that artifact weapon synergy with it, but this might be for the better. Deeper Stratagem still might be really strong, maybe in PvP situations, but playing with Vigor for more energy regen honestly might feel a little bit more satisfying for a lot of the Outlaw players out there. Level 60 is exactly the same. Cheat Death, Elusiveness, Iron Stomach. Level 75 for most part is the same. Dirty Tricks is not competitive with Blinding Powder, and Blinding Powder is hilarious. Let me just showcase this. I'm burning through so many of these, but look how far I can be. I am so far away from this train dummy, right? I can blind it from this far away. So imagine this in PvP, and yes, it does have that minute 50-second reduction to it. Prey in the Weak is interesting because it works with cheap shots in between the eyes, so that makes it a lot more useful. So this whole row is competitive. Level 90 is Loaded Dice, Alacrity, or Slice and Dice. I'll showcase Slice and Dice build at a later time, but that's just your roll. Some people love it. Alacrity can give you up to 50% maximum, 50% increase of haste, 50% max at all times. Guaranteed 2 rolls on Adrenaline Rush or Slice and Dice. All these are pretty competitive. I don't really know which one is best. I've been rolling with Loaded Dice for my Roll the Bones build, but Slice and Dice build is a pretty decent one. Maybe Alacrity will be better for Roll the Bones down the line as we need more stats. We'll have to see depending on what stats Outlaw ends up doing. It's too early to tell right now, and I'm not even going to make guess. Level 100 tree is your cleave tree, but also has some potential for single target. So this deals with Blade Flurry interactions. So Dance and Steel increases the duration of Blade Flurry by 3 seconds, is damaged by 5%. So you can basically Blade Flurry into Blade Flurry into Blade Flurry back to back into your enemies. Then you have Blade Rush, which is a very interesting ability. It's a charge with a 20-yard range. So you have a charge for Outlaw Rogues, which looks something like this. Pretty cool. It'll hit the main target for a decent chunk of damage and everybody else by half. Also on cooldown reduction. So as I'm spending common points, so this should give 20 seconds off of it. Maybe? Not quite, no. So this ability, and I'm gonna have to stop myself right there. While making this video live, I got very confused in my numbers. I'm not really sure what was going through my head. I had a couple sleepless nights covering BFA as much as possible, so that was probably be a lapse during a live recording, and I thought I had true bearing, but for some reason I had the numbers doubled in my head, so I should have gotten, I thought, at least more CDR. It makes fine. The ability works properly. CDR is working just fine. Just want to make sure everybody was aware. So it also has the cooldown reduction mechanics, so you can get back faster, and if you have Blade Flurry active, it'll cleave everybody for the same amount. So as you saw, I hit a bunch of enemies at the same time for like 8k at one point. So that's really cool with Blade Flurry, and then you have extra Blade Flurry hit off of that, so it can be really bursty for AoE. It also grants you energy back over time. And Killing Spree is exactly the same, has the same interaction with Blade Flurry, 100% more damage to other targets that you're cleaving. Very useful, very cool, and really bursty in PvP, and I just have such a fun interactive mechanic with it, where you can just have a bursty PvP opener with it. I just want to showcase it first of all before I go on with the rest of the abilities. Alrighty, so I guess we can showcase some of the builds, some of the playstyles. There is one playstyle for Roll the Bones with a bit of RNG that I enjoy. I've been enjoying Roll the Bones a hell of a lot in a playstyle for it, and there's a powerful combination that you have a burst capability with, and then you kind of go into like a more sustained damage. So let me first showcase the potential of what an Outlaw Rogue can do for PvP. We don't have PvP testing available yet. We have like skirmishes, but they don't have the honor talents available, so I feel like it just doesn't showcase it quite properly of what the hell is going on in the game, you know what I mean? So let me showcase you this. This is one of the fun things that you can do with Outlaw. Since your cooldowns are all different, Killing Spree becomes a lot more useful. All the ones we got, Buried Treasure, let's just reroll for a different buff. Exactly the same buff. Actually, I want to see if I can maybe get myself a crit buff just to showcase the potential damage of Outlaw. Because everybody's going to wonder, how is Outlaw doing on damage? We'll just Vanish, Cheap Shot, Ghost to Strike, and Killing Spree with that crit damage. The potential for Outlaw damage is pretty high. It's pretty up there. As Killing Spree and Mango Share just triggering back to back, both of them dealing decent damage, while with a higher chance to crit, which doesn't show up in tooltip, but I think it still does happen though. So it's very awesome to have this capability for burst damage and guarantee for damage with Outlaw, which is something you don't really see in Legion unless you have full burst. Here it's just nice to see that the spec, I guess, is more simpler, but it hits hard. It really hits like a truck, even with the energy regen issues that it has here and there. Let's talk more about the builds, I guess. So this is the build that I've been rolling with. Literally, you roll the bones, and you open up on the enemy, and you would have your Adrenaline Rush apply, and let's say you would get buffs, and you would just spend the common points, just hit the enemy, spend the common points, get your buffs back. Combine Ghost to Strike with other cooldowns as much as possible. You had Adrenaline Rush to get, loaded dice. I'm just gonna build up to full common points, just so I can have loaded dice for as long as possible. Here we go. Now we got cooldown reduction, we got big old crits, we're gonna build up the common points, we're gonna Ghost to Strike, run through, Mark for Death, run through, Pistol Shot into a Killing Spree to sink as much damage during that window of Ghost to Strike, and then get some more Sinister Strikes. And what we end up doing here is prioritizing Pistol Shots because they deal overall more damage. Not only am I getting high chances with crit, but they just hit a lot harder. So now I'm going to then go back to getting my common points fully for Ghost to Strike, getting maybe some procs for Pistol Shots if possible. Not gonna happen, so I'm gonna Ghost to Strike here. I'm gonna save some energy at run through, Mark for Death, run through, sink as much damage as I can. Pistol Shots are going off. Another Sinister Strike, maybe another one to sink in. And my stats are all over the place, but that's generally like the play style for it. And you have your Roll the Bones. My Roll the Bones are about to fall off. I should have probably re-roll them earlier. So now we change it. Now we get Jolly Roger, 30% additional chance to strike an additional time. So there's that, doing our whole thing. Back to business, and back to basically waiting for our cooldowns to be back up. So that's your Roll the Bones playstyle. It's very, I kind of like it. It's a lot more watching out for procs and trying to time abilities. I'm out of energy, so I'm going to Killing Spree. Once I get my energy back, Pistol Shot proc has to go off. Seek as many abilities as I can. So it's really fun. And I guess I kind of got to customize my playstyle. I decided to go with Ghost Strike, so it's about syncing as many abilities during that as possible. I have Killing Spree, so I have some burst potential, especially in the opener. I have loaded dice, so I can really just wait for Adrenaline Rush to be back and have some guaranteed rolls for buffs. And I'm still playing the buff mechanic with Mark for Death and getting abilities back fairly quickly. So that's a general playstyle. That's one of them. That's the one I've been really enjoying. Then there's the other, if you really want to go back to old school combat rogue, quick draw, acrobatic strikes, vigor. Wait, I can't do that until that's gone. So let me go build up common points. Slice and dice, vigor, and you basically have old school combat rogue. If you really want to play old school combat rogue from back in the day, like very, very old school combat rogue, you now can do that. This is the playstyle that has a lot of energy to it. It's a fairly boring playstyle, I'd say, because all you're doing is just same rotation. You're really simplifying your rotation as much as possible here, but you have a lot more consistency. So for me, as somebody who likes to play like a weirder playstyle or a difficult playstyle, Roll the Bones I feel like suits me. But if you really want to play combat rogue, and or I guess old school combat rogue as the outlaw, then you can play this. So in the opener we would have a lot more energy regen with Slice and Dice, a lot more consistency. You have your Killing Spree for bursts because you're trying to be old school combat. Vigor, a lot more energy regen. Acrobatic strikes for that reach. So how would you end up playing? I guess you would Adrenaline Rush, and you would build up common points, Adrenaline Rush, Slice and Dice, and then just back to spamming Sinister Strikes, and then pistol shots when you can. And that's all you do. And I guess you can Kill and Spree when you don't have any cooldowns available. You really don't want to do that together with Adrenaline Rush because it's a waste. I shouldn't have done that. But now you have really consistent damage. You're just playing off of procs now. That's all. Your energy regen is also really good. And I'm probably wasting my pistol shot procs, honestly. I'm trying to get my finishers used, like my dispatch finishers, which is the old school run through, with 5 common points for maximum potential damage. But maybe with this playstyle, you might just want to kind of eat some of those. Maybe you want to go into 4. Let's say you have like 4 common points and you have a pistol shot proc. You don't want to waste the pistol shot proc. So is it better to just do dispatch at 4 common points then pistol shot? Or should you just Sinister Strike? Or should you just eat the pistol shot and then do 5 common point dispatch? You know what I mean? It's those little things that you can do. But yeah, that's like your general playstyle. You can just Slice and Dice and you'll deal very similar damage to the Roll the Bones build. The Roll the Bones build with RNG I feel like has potential to do very, very high damage. And you can really output a ton of damage for your character, right? Again, I'm also not properly statted, so stats will increase the damage even higher. But this is just the baseline of Outlaw is like, with like basically no stats for anything. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see how it is at the end of the game, at the end of the line. But yeah, this is just a playstyle you can have. That's all you do is just a Sinister Strike, and Pistol Shot whenever you get a chance. I guess I should be using Pistol Shots as soon as I can because they just do more damage, even if I'm eating the common points. Adrenaline Rush up, so now you have a lot more energy going. Pistol Shots for free. Yeah, so you just deal decent, good damage overall. It's a solid playstyle. Yeah, so that's one of the playstyles with Slice and Dice. I feel like the early Slice and Dice playstyles that I was running with were doing better than my early Roll the Bones. But at max level, at level 120, the damage is a lot different. So I feel like maybe it's just the stats is what a Slice and Dice is missing. But on its own baseline, it's performing fairly decent and fairly similar to what Roll the Bones does. I just personally prefer the Roll the Bones build. I find it a lot more fun. I find it a little bit more challenging. There's a lot more timing to it, and it can have potentially even more damage. And I feel like I've been fairly lucky as an Outlaw Rogue player, so I have no problem rolling the bones for that better damage and then adjusting my playstyle. Overall, Outlaw is receiving a very similar treatment as Subtlety and Assassination. There's multiple choices of how you want to play your spec. Yes, there's probably going to be some kind of a talent build. It's going to be the best when the game finally comes out and people do logs for the specialization to figure out exactly how you should be playing it. But right now, as it is, there's a lot of freedom of how you want to play. There's a lot of opportunity of how you can play your specialization. So that's probably the best thing in the world. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I very much hope you enjoyed this video. This has been my video on Outlaw. I tried to cover it as best as I can in my early look. If there's any more updates to rogues, I'll make sure to cover videos on those. I think I'm gonna go do some stuff with my rogue, do some stuff with other classes, cover a lot more stuff with BFA, maybe even dive into islands, as that's one of the pieces of content that I just haven't been able to experience with at all. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.